On a factory floor packed with conveyors and robotic arms, a boundary is crossed into an active movement line, yet the system continues without interruption. On an open roadway, two workers focus on smoothing freshly poured material, while traffic continues moving just feet away. Within seconds, a moving vehicle drifts into the edge of the work zone, turning a routine task into an immediate roadside hazard. On the deck of a moving chemical tanker, a sudden flash erupts. Within seconds, flames push outward from the cargo hold as pressure rapidly builds, turning the confined space into a volatile, expanding hazard. Volatile cargo under pressure can transition from stable to explosive in an instant when containment is compromised, turning confined spaces like cargo holds into rapid energy release zones. Inside a deep excavation pit, an excavator works close to the trench wall. When the ground suddenly gives way, do not enter or work near an unsupported trench without proper shoring, sloping, or protective systems in place. A worker handles a suspended metal piece, but the moment it is guided back toward its original position, stored force takes over and the material snaps along its return path. Never, ever place yourself in the line of rebound when handling suspended metal or any tension-loaded material, and always control its return path because stored energy can snap back without warning. Inside a storage room, a worker climbs onto a shelving unit to reach the top. Then the entire structure suddenly shifts, turning a stable setup into an unstable hazard. Never ever use storage shelves as a ladder or climbing surface, and always use proper access equipment like ladders or step platforms designed for safe elevation. In a damp, cluttered workspace, water spreads across the floor as equipment runs, then a single contact turns the entire area into a live hazard. Keep electrical equipment fully isolated from wet conditions, maintain dry working surfaces, and ensure proper insulation and grounding before operating any powered system. Water reduces resistance and expands the path. Electricity can travel, allowing current to spread across surfaces instead of staying contained. Once a conductive path forms, energy moves instantly through the environment. Electricity follows the easiest path, and water creates it. Control the environment, or the hazard controls everything. At the rear of a dump truck, the tailgate is lifted and held open, then suddenly it drops without warning. Never ever stand directly beneath or behind a raised tailgate or suspended load, and always ensure it is securely supported, locked, or mechanically restrained before working near it. High above the ground, two workers stand on a narrow beam beside concrete structures, then the platform suddenly shifts beneath them. Do ensure all elevated work platforms are fully secured, stable, and equipped with proper guardrails and fall protection before stepping onto them. Don't rely on narrow beams or incomplete structures for footing. Elevated surfaces depend on stable load distribution, but narrow or unsecured beams can shift when weight is applied unevenly. Even slight movement can disrupt balance, especially at height, where there is no margin for recovery. At height, stability is everything. Secure the platform, then step on it. On a busy shipping dock, a forklift moves a full load between trailers. When the travel path suddenly becomes obstructed, turning a routine movement into a high-risk blind spot hazard. Keep pedestrians and truck drivers completely separated from active forklift lanes, and don't allow anyone to walk or stand near moving loads or blind spots on the dock. Beside a loaded truck in the dark, a group works around a raised wheel for maintenance. Then, without warning, the balance shifts and the entire vehicle tips sideways under its own weight. Heavy vehicles under maintenance rely entirely on stable support and balanced load distribution. Lifting one side without securing the center of gravity can instantly turn the entire structure into a tipping hazard. When a truck is lifted, its weight shifts toward the remaining contact points, raising the center of gravity. If that center moves beyond the base of support, gravity takes over and the vehicle rotates rapidly toward the ground. A slight imbalance can move tons in a heartbeat. Stability must be controlled before anything gets lifted. On a narrow metal platform above a canal, the surface becomes slick and unstable. One misstep sends a worker's foot sliding towards the exposed edge in a split second. Wet, uneven surfaces combined with open edges create a high-risk slip zone where balance can be lost instantly, especially when no secondary protection is in place. On a sloped blue metal roof, a homeowner shifts position while making a quick repair. Then, in a split second, traction is lost, and gravity pulls movement rapidly toward the exposed edge. Roof work combines height, angle, and low-friction surfaces, where even routine movement can quickly turn unstable. Secure access, proper positioning, and fall protection transform a risky surface into a controlled workspace. Metal roofing reduces friction, and when combined with a slope, gravity continuously pulls the body downward along the surface. Once balance is lost, acceleration increases rapidly, leaving little time to recover before reaching the edge. A small slip at height becomes a fast fall. Stability isn't optional, it's your only control. On a quiet roadside, a large metal grill unit sits slightly uneven on the ground. Then added weight shifts the balance, and within seconds, the entire structure tips and closes inward. Entering large containers, grills, or equipment not designed for human access creates a confined and unstable hazard. Always assess stability, secure all moving parts, and use proper access methods instead of climbing inside uncontrolled structures. When a person climbs into an unanchored structure, the center of gravity shifts beyond the base of support. This imbalance causes the unit to rotate or tip, while hinged components follow gravity and close rapidly, turning the interior into a confined hazard zone. Unstable structures react the moment balance is lost. Inside a busy garage, two mechanics stand casually on a floor mat. Then, as an SUV moves onto the garage floor, the mat suddenly shoots backward, turning stable footing into a moving slip hazard in an instant. Loose surfaces and vehicle paths can become moving hazards when force is applied, turning stable footing into an unexpected slip zone within seconds. In a cluttered workshop yard, a worker reaches into a compressed metal assembly. Then, without warning, the stored tension releases and the structure snaps wide open. Compressed, bent, or tension-loaded materials behave like stored energy systems waiting for release. The danger isn't always visible on the surface. What appears static can suddenly become dynamic the moment restraint is disturbed. Working around these materials requires controlled release techniques, proper tools, and safe positioning outside the direct line of movement, ensuring there is always a clear escape path if the structure reacts unexpectedly. When metal or structural components are bent, twisted, or compressed, they accumulate potential energy within their internal structure. This energy remains stored as long as the material is constrained. Once a locking point, fastener, or opposing force is removed, that stored energy rapidly converts into kinetic energy, causing the material to spring back or expand along the path of least resistance, often at high speed and with significant force. On a narrow stairwell, a worker balances a tray while wearing high heels. One step lands wrong, then in a split second, balance is lost and forward motion accelerates along the steps. Footwear that reduces surface contact and stability increases the likelihood of imbalance, especially on stairs where each step demands precise weight transfer and grip. In a warehouse lane, a forklift carries a towering stack overhead. Then, without warning, the load shifts and begins to cascade downward as gravity takes over. Elevated loads introduce invisible danger zones that extend far beyond the forklift itself. When materials are stacked high or unevenly, even a slight disturbance, movement, vibration, or tilt can destabilize the entire load. Without proper securing and exclusion zones, anyone passing nearby becomes exposed to a falling hazard that gives no time to react. As a load is lifted, its center of gravity rises and becomes more sensitive to imbalance. If the stack is uneven or loosely secured, small shifts reduce friction between layers, allowing them to slide. Once movement begins, gravity accelerates the falling materials, and the collapse often spreads outward as pieces knock into each other, creating a cascading effect. Overhead loads don't just stay above, they can come down fast and wide. Distance isn't optional. It's your only protection from what gravity releases. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.